Hi guys, I'm Farmer Nick and we're at Denver Green School Northfield today trellising tomatoes. And the reason we trellis tomatoes is to lift them up off the ground. And when we lift the tomatoes up off the ground, that does quite a few things actually. And so the number one thing is that when the tomatoes are sitting near the ground, that means they're going to be prone to diseases because that's where any water buildup could potentially happen. And so if we lift our tomato vines up off the ground, then we are ensuring that the fruit is going to be looking good and staying nice and healthy for us to eat later. Trellising also helps manage the tomato bushes because otherwise it becomes very, very difficult to see where the tomatoes are. And so by lifting them up off the ground and kind of compacting them in some ways, that actually makes harvesting the tomatoes a little bit more manageable. Another reason that we trellis tomatoes is for airflow. Again, this kind of comes back to trying to prevent disease. And so if we have adequate airflow through our tomato canopy, that means that there's not going to be an excess of moisture buildup that could actually inhibit our tomato growth. And so we will be doing a classic method of trellising today called the Florida weave. All you need is a little bit of string. I have some real trellising twine here and a knife or some other thing to cut the string. And of course, you're going to need stakes as well. And we have these stakes right here. These are just bamboo stakes. And so normally, if you have strong supports, say T-posts for example, you would place those T-posts every 2 plants or so. But since we are using bamboo as our supports, we have a bamboo stick after each plant. And so that'll ensure that as the tomatoes get heavier, that these stakes can support the tomatoes. And so the basic Florida weave technique, which I've already done for one row of the tomatoes here, is to tie a knot on the end of the stake, your end stake here, and you will start looping it around each stake. And the end goal here is you're going to be sandwiching the tomato plant, and you don't want to be, tugging at the tomato plants too much. But you do want to, make sure that the string gets under a lot of the leaves and the branches, and so that you're lifting the tomato plant up. And so you'll simply go around one side of each stake all the way down. You'll wrap it around the final stake, and then you'll come back down the other side. And so you'll have a string on the left side here, a string on the right side, and then you'll tie it off at the end to finish your Florida weave. And so our tomato plants are anywhere from a foot or even probably around 6 inches, some of them, to like 2 or 3 feet. And so we've got a variety of different growth stages right now, which is okay. Okay, so we're ready to start our Florida weave, and I have my string here. I'm simply going to tie a knot at the end stake here, and judging by the height of my plants currently, I'm gonna run it somewhat down the middle of the plants right now. And so I'm lifting up most of the leaves and branches of the tomatoes. And so I've tied my knot, and I'm simply going to string it over here, pull it tight, and you can gently maneuver the plant so that, and your stakes if they're coming a little loose, but you want to gently maneuver the plant so that the branches can rest easily on the twine. And so I'm going to pull it tight like so, and then move on to the next stake over here, and so on down the line. So when you've reached the end here, you can take your knife or scissors back out and make sure that you cut just enough length to be able to tie another knot with. Okay, and so I'm going to pull it tight and tie another knot. All right, and there you have it. We've trellised our tomato plants, and in a sec here I'm going to go back in and tuck some more branches up through the little sandwich parts. And so you just want to remember to try to keep your string at a similar level when you're going through, and making sure to pull tight. We don't have the easiest garden bed to trellis in here, because we also have other crops planted in here, which is a really great thing. We've got a ton of other things in this bed. It just makes it a little bit harder to manage the trellising part. But something you may consider in the future is trellising before your tomatoes are even this high. That way you can just tuck them in. And I might even go back and add another layer here to make sure that when the plants do get that tall, that they're just ready to go right in. It's really up to you, it's your preference, but this is how we do a Florida weave and lift our tomatoes up off the ground. Thank you guys for tuning into this video, and I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Thanks, guys.